Well, we all know how I feel about, mental health and, suicide and, these things that could be avoided. And another one of those things happens to be, all the problems we see with drugs because, my experience at least with a lot of the people, whether they're physically related to me, tattooed on my arm, however it was, there's always underlying things, mental health stuff that leads to, having addiction issues and all that. I mean, you talk to most people, that always seems to be a part in it. And, it got me thinking, about, you know, things that are happening here lately, like Trump taking out that Venezuelan boat. No matter how you feel about it, that's the first real action we've actually pretty much ever seen in the war on drugs that actually, is a positive step and did anything. I mean, words are one thing, legislation's another thing. We've seen it do nothing. Action, no matter how you feel about it, at least it was action. And it finally did something. And, well, Maduro, hopefully he's not that stupid and doesn't do anything, scramble any more jets over our stuff, because that'll end terribly. But, war on drugs. Let's kick it, because I got some numbers here for everybody, because we know I love them. Okay, the U.S. war on drugs is officially declared by President Richard Nixon on June 17th, 1971. It was later formalized by President Reagan and expanded in October of 1982, increasing federal funding for anti-drug programs and shifting enforcement to a federal level. And, personally, I feel most things when the feds in charge tend to get worse. Maybe it's just me. But, Nixon and his administration did try to combat the rising narcotic deaths in the country by targeting both the supply and demand sides of the drugs trade. And we saw Reagan later intensified efforts rebranding the policy and significantly increasing federal involvement and funding for drug enforcement agencies. And I don't know if you've seen the numbers lately, but it hasn't done a fucking thing. Hey, at least I made it over 2 minutes without cussing. There we go. At least I think I did. But it hasn't done anything. So far, we spent over $1 trillion on the war on drugs since its inception. And we've seen, it just continue to get worse because, again, you can throw money at a problem, all you want, but it doesn't do anything. And look at, everyone talks about, the mass incarceration of black and brown men during the 90s because of the crime bill. By the way, Joe Biden was the daddy of that, so congratulations to anyone on the left that's listening to this, because that was him. He's the one that made the legislation that led to the mass incarceration of all those people. But what did it do? If you look at the stats, and don't worry, again, in the show notes, the links are all there. There's a lot to go over. I figured you could read it all your damn self and get some knowledge, because it's better than listen to me spout out off all those numbers. But, that mainly went after, the addicts and the users. And if you look at the stats, it does nothing to help pretty much any of them. In fact, it just tends to make things worse in most situations and leads to overdoses very shortly after. Just continue to see the stuff just pile in and pile in. And again, I got numbers, so I'm going to go over some numbers and we'll have some nice talky talk after we're done. But between 2014 and 2016, opiate overdose deaths increased by approximately 48% nationwide. The opiate epidemic costs the United States roughly $504 billion a year, which includes, the cost of healthcare, justice systems, the impact on the economy and world on premature fatalities, and, all the different things that go into, all of that. But 500, that was, this is a number from a few years ago, so bear with me. It's probably worse than that now. It's, inflation, the cost of everything, who knows, but $504 billion is just obnoxious of a number, and, it doesn't have to happen. Opioid fatality rates jumped by 29% from 2015 to 2016, just in that 1 year. And now we're going to hit, and again, these are all from the CDC, links in the show notes. It goes much further in depth. So, all kinds of different ones, break it down by, gender, race, economic stuff. So if you want to see it, it goes further there. So please hit the show notes. But we're going to talk drug overdose deaths from 2003 to 2023 in the U.S. because, shocker, we don't have all the numbers from 2024 yet. Amazing how often that happens. But 2003, we saw a total of 25,785 deaths with a rate of 8.9 per 100,000 citizens. And that will be, now the rate, you hear the number, that'll be per 100,000 people. Just to make that easy, she understand the numbers as I go so I don't confuse anybody any more than I'm already going to. Moving on. Continuously, just went up in the wrong direction for years and, years and years. Again, this is just numbers from 2003 to 2023. But I don't, 2011 and 2012 are odd numbers, and I don't want to, hear it because that it went up in 2011, but it stayed right there in 2012. But if you look, deaths per 100,000 stayed at 16.1 for males, 10.2 for women, and we saw an increase in total deaths in 2020. Yeah, 2012, that made sense. In 2012, yet the rate went from 13.1 down to 13.2. The percentages were the same. There was more deaths, and it went down 0.1% even with that. So that's not improvement. What, more deaths is more deaths. I don't give a goddamn what the rate says. It shouldn't have gone down. It's still more. Moving on. Up to 13.8 in 2013, 14.7 in 2015, 16.3 in 2015, 19.8 in 2016, 21.7. Again, I kept saying the more money we spent, the worse it got, but 21.7 per 100,000 in 2017. Then in 2018, we saw the rare per 100K drop a whole point to just under 3K less total deaths. I mean, it was just under 3,000 less total deaths, but 3,000, it was like when we saw veteran suicide take that, dip. Or 2 straight years where things started looking good that I mentioned in the last episode. If you haven't listened to it, why? Do it. There's some good numbers on all those mass shootings and school shootings and suicides, which is linked to this because it's all mental health and why, it's not the gun's fault. So if you haven't done it, do it. Moving on. Males dropped from 29.1 to 27.9, and females dropped from 14.4 to 13.6, which is almost a whole point. Then, sadly, in 2019, we saw the number jump by nearly 3,300, so we lost all that gain, plus a little bit, with the rates in males jumping up a lot, and the females jumping, just barely 0.1. But it was a big, big uptick for the males, sadly. Again, problem in 2020, we saw the problem get worse. Again, whether you talk about, 2020 was a fucked up year. I don't gotta tell you that, you were there. It was a fucked up year. But, all the isolation, unemployment, like just all the things that happened. As we all said, it's just exacerbated, people that had mental health issues and, substance abuse issues and all those things, completely isolating them. Which can always make things, there's some people that thrive in that, but there's a lot of people that do not. They weren't allowed to see people and they just thought, sat around and did, what they knew. And, that's nothing against any of them. Like, it's just the way it is, And during all that, we saw the number explode by 21,000 to 91,799 total from the 70,630 the year before. So giant skyrocket. The overall rate jumped from 21.6 to 28.3. Males jumped from 29.6 to 39.5, so almost a whole 10 points. And females from 13.7 to 17.1. Numbers for males jumped from 47,881 to 63,728, and females saw an uptick from 22,749 to 28,071. Again, all the numbers through the CDC. The links will be there. I don't necessarily 1,000% trust the CDC because, they still can't tell us how many veterans killed themselves last year. Trust me, we're all in a giant database. They know. As I digress. Now we're going to move on to the last couple of years. Again, only have through 2023 because 2024 still isn't tabulated, and I sure as fuck don't believe the number that they have, the provisional number. And if it's anything like their jobs numbers, this is going to be like batten down the hatches, strap yourself in, because that number is going to be catastrophic, but we'll get to that when we get to it. Now, 2021 to 2023. Before we get going, again, this isn't a political thing for those saying it is. An attack on Biden. It's an attack on the ineffectiveness on the war on drugs, as you saw the numbers through. From when it was started down with Richard Nixon all the way, the numbers pretty much just only went one direction the whole entire time. Very rarely, like 2 times, we saw it didn't explode up. No matter what, it was still going up. So this is not an attack on the left. This is an attack on the whole entire fucking thing because it's ineffective. And it probably just made a lot of people money that didn't need the goddamn money. And that's pretty much how all these things work. So before anyone does any of that, certain things didn't help, like the situation at the border. But the situation, the war on drugs was absolutely useless before that. So this just exacerbated it. But moving on, 2021, it jumped to 106,699. The first time it's ever, hit 6 figures, a rate of 32.4. 2022 up again to a total of 107,941 and a rate of 32.6. 2023, the total was at 105,007 and a rate of 31.3, according to the CDC, of course. Beautiful job, war on drugs. You've done nothing. And like I said, the useless bastards lying out of their ass when they give you this number to go from that bad of a problem. They're saying the provisional numbers that they had that I saw. So 80,391 2021. I do not believe you went from 107,000, 108,000, 105,000 down to 80. Fuck off with all of that from the bottom of my heart. But we don't know the exact number, so I'm either going to pat myself on the back or someone's going to punch me in the back of the head. But I'm pretty sure it's nowhere near as low as 80,000. But if you believe that they could do that, then Jesus Christ, I don't even know what to say to you. Everyone's going to say, Jesse, what was the point of all that? The point of all these numbers and going over that and having all the links and the stuff and doing all this shit is because the war on drugs has been fucking ineffective and pointless. The only thing they did was mass incarcerate people for minor drug offenses that they shouldn't have been locked up for. Like, that's all it did was just break up families over stupid shit. Because dealers are still doing them. If you look at the numbers, addicts got way, way more than the dealers, and especially look at all the people that are still producing the shit everywhere without a problem. Because just throwing money at this thing, or giving people clean places to take their fucking drugs doesn't do a fucking thing to help it. It just keeps the problem going. So I don't understand how people think that makes fucking sense. But maybe it's just me. But getting them clean, the mental health, taken care of, that'll stop it. Yeah. Which gets us to Trump and him taking out that boat in Venezuela and all the stuff I've seen. It was an actual action on the war on drugs. So what the hell is wrong with that? No matter how you feel about it, you should at least see that. Get your insufferableness aside. And it's an actual thing. Doesn't matter how you feel about them. From what we know, 11 members of the Tren de Aragua, the drug runners, gone. The boat, gone. The drugs on it, gone, and couldn't get to the next destination and then get here because they keep happening. That's why we keep getting bigger and bigger busts all the time. Look at all the stuff we got. I'm like, look at all the stuff that got through for you to be able to have to do that because we're not producing it here. People are still finding things to, be pissy about. Like, we should agree that someone finally at least doing something because just throwing money at it did dick. Mass incarcerating people did dick. This was an action. We should at least be able to fucking agree on that. And it doesn't matter how Venezuela, the Maduro regime, all of them feel. Doesn't matter how much Orange Man is bad. Doesn't matter how you feel. Fuck it. We finally did something. Right, wrong, or indifferent, what we've been doing for fucking over 50 years has done nothing but lead to 6 figures of them. And a lot lately. What's wrong with actually fucking doing something? Like, that's how bad people have them twisted. Now we see liberals literally and people defending drug runners and gang members and stuff over this shit. Like, I'm sorry. It doesn't make sense. And I'm tired of the liberal responses saying they were just fishermen. Yeah. Where they live with 4 outboards on that thing. No fishing gear in sight. Let's go back, Congratulations on that. Or let's go with the boat can't take the drugs straight into the U.S. It wouldn't be able to carry enough fuel. One, anything's possible. Two, thank you for proving how little you know, though. You think that it's just they're going to take that all the way there? They could be tracked. No, they're going to go from there to somewhere else, to somewhere else, to somewhere else. Not just going to be one shot, like how easy it is to get caught on. That shows how fucking stupid you are. 4 outboards, yeah. I'm going fishing in the middle of Venezuela with a dude had 4 outboards on that thing. Makes sense. But, let the Venezuelans buzz our warships. I mean, they're doing things stupid. I feel bad for them because they can't compete. They can't. Militarily, we have them. But this is how we actually put a stop to all the death and despair and the broken hearts, funerals, and devastated loved ones and friends and people that served people and just all that stuff. This is an actual step to do it because throwing money does nothing. It's kept the epidemic burning and getting bigger. Don't give people clean needles and all that shit in safe spaces to take their drugs. Shout out San Francisco and everywhere else that does it. None of that. That just keeps the problem going. Like this. This is how you do it. Actually attacking them and being like, no, really. Stop it, motherfuckers. Find someone else. It's the only way it's ever going to stop. There's no rhyme, reason, or logic you can get around it. That's the only way to get this to stop. This is the actual war on drugs. Take the war to them. An actual war to stop it instead of just throwing money at fucking something and it's not fucking working. Like we're doing the same thing on repeat, expecting a different response. Definition of insanity. Welcome to the war on drugs for 50 fucking years. It's done diddly squat. This is how we actually solve the fucking problem. So how about you take your orange man bad hat off? Don't act like a Karen from the Phillies game. Just get over it, because it's the way, no matter how you feel, we all have to admit this is the only way it's ever going to fucking stop. And we don't have to lock up any addict or anyone that needs help to get it done. We can take care of the problem there and get them, the help that they need, and bada boom. But, shout out again to Joe and the crime bill, because that really locked up a fuck ton of people with that thing, and he was the daddy of that thing. So shout out to him for mass incarcerating all those black and brown people that he allegedly cares so much about for, simple possession that other people got away with. What? Round of applause to that motherfucker, because that was good. And how everyone voted for him, I don't understand. But, all I know is I lost people. You've lost people. We all know someone that's lost someone. And I say enough is enough. We've seen enough death and destruction. Now it's time to actually do something about it and at least fucking unite on one thing. I don't think that's much to ask for. But thank you for listening, watching. Don't forget to share it, comment. Please share the fuck out of it, because this one really, means a lot to me and touches close to home for a lot of people. Make sure to check out 2146media.com, because I like the website. I think it's pretty fucking cool. Check out Jesse Rosinski Creations on Etsy. That's also on the website, so you can get to it. See? Easy. Buy some paintings. Be good to each other. Check in on one another. Share the hell out of this. Love y'all. Peace.